Last year was a year for the record books for the Chicago area when it came to tornadoes and severe weather reports.
In tonight's special report, our chief meteorologist, Emily Walls, tells us how 2024 is stacking up.
We're starting to ramp down the peak of severe weather season, but I think there's going to be a lot of insurance companies that are going to be feeling the pain this year.
Victor Gensini, professor of meteorology at NIU, says it's been a busy year across the U.S., not only for tornadoes, but for significant hail and severe winds. Fortunately for the Chicago area, it hasn't been as busy as 2023.
So far this year, we've been really, fortunate in the fact we really haven't had a whole lot of the really extreme severe weather. If you remember last year, by this time, we already confirmed several tornadoes and even a lot of wind damage, mainly on the March 31st event, but this year we've been fairly tame.
Zachary Yak, a meteorologist with the Chicago National Weather Service, says a lot of the action has been to our west and southwest in places like Texas, Oklahoma, Iowa, and Nebraska. Chicagoland seems to be experiencing a fairly average year when it comes to severe weather.
So far we've kind of been almost on par for where we would typically expect our season to be.
If we broaden the scope beyond the Chicago area, it's been a little more active if you consider the entire state of Illinois. We spoke to Illinois state climatologist Trent Ford.
It's been busy so far, right? I mean, and this year, similar to last year, we've seen severe weather in every month.
Ford says we aren't quite to the point of last year as far as the number of tornadoes across Illinois, but it's been an active year if you consider hail and damaging wind reports.
It's been a remarkably active hail year so far. So far we've had 158 severe hail reports.
As of the beginning of June, Ford says that for this point in the year, this has been the most hail reports on record that we've seen in the last 24 years.
To me, hail and damaging winds are a much bigger story because they're way more frequent, right? If I survey 100 people in an audience and ask them, have you seen a tornado before? Very few, a couple hands go up, and I say, how many of you have seen large hail before? And everybody's hand goes up.
According to Victor Gensini, hail produces 10 to 15 times more in insured losses every year than tornadoes do.
Insurance and reinsurance companies have actually come to us asking what is going on with hail over the last decade. How can we better predict hail? How do we understand the environments that produce hail?
The benchmark for hail to be considered severe is when it's the size of a U.S. quarter, which is about 1 inch in diameter. That type of hail can damage roofs and dent cars. Research is showing the frequency and size of hailstones are both increasing. But why?
We don't know for sure. We think this updrafts and thunderstorms are getting stronger. We think the changes in climate are actually supporting these stronger updrafts, which then can support larger hail.
So something that's really interesting is Gensini, he's working on getting a grant to further study hail, simply because, as he had mentioned, insurance companies are beginning to ask some questions now too. And you and I had talked about this a little bit too, Scott.
We did.
That, we're experiencing larger hail and it's damaging a lot of roofs, cars, things like that. And the frequency does seem to be going up. We do have an image to show you, and this is actually coming to us from Gensini. And what you're looking at here, this is an Illinois hailstone. So I know a lot of times that we see images when they're this large. This is about 3.5 inches. And you assume that it's from down south. You assume that it's from, what we know as Tornado Alley with those really picturesque storms. But this is possible here, and it is happening. 3 to 4 inch hailstones certainly possible in Illinois, Northwest Indiana. So unfortunately, it's kind of a sign of things to come. And again, a lot of it's coming down to the climate change factor.
Yeah. Emily, wow, really interesting.
Good stuff. All right, still ahead.